Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is Contender Series week number 7, and we are coming at you live talking about 5 fights. We can't do it alone. We've got great guests as well to break it down with us. If you've been rocking with us for a long time, you know that myself and Gordo Gambles have been breaking it down for quite some time over on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel as well as here. My name's Liam. I pick fights. This is Gordo, the dynamic duo, back at it again. How are you, my brother?
Oh, I am in a great mood. We love ourselves a fun little Monday night stream when your team goes out there, kicks some ass. It's looking good, man. Things are good. And as always, I am excited to break down some fights. Tuesday night action. I love doing these shows with you, man, because we got some prospects coming out here. We have some fun fights and we got some action on a Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we align on our picks this week, seeing how the slate breaks down, and hopefully going out there and making some money on Tuesday.
Yeah, Contender Series is definitely a saving grace when we're coming off these off weeks from the UFC. However, maybe not the highest quality Contender Series event that we've ever seen in terms of star-making potential, but there's fights to bet on, and that's what we're looking for. And by popular demand, by community consensus, the man of the hour, a great addition to the show each and every time that he's here. We're happy to have him back in the building once again. Pierce, what's up, my brother? How are you?
Well, we're doing good tonight, my man. We're just counting down the days till the Dana White Contender Series legend Torres Finney returns. 8 more days till we get to see this man get another opportunity at the contract. But in one day, we got 5 fights tomorrow, like you said. Not the best talent, but we got 5 fights to make money on. So a brother cannot complain. Let's get into it.
And Liam, I don't want to cut you off here. I just had to say a big congratulations. Canada is not going to lose a fight on Dana White Contender Series in 2 weeks, and I'm very proud of us at this point in time.
I love that. I love to see it. Canada hopefully could get something back on the board at some point, but at least if they're absent, they can't lose, right? That's always one thing to think about. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. We've got Rose Conceicao taking on Alexia Thainara. It's the first fight of the night, and you've got a Rose Conceicao who was, teeter-tottering on the, case of losing her most recent bout with Eleni Lopez. It was a very close fight. She was able to win, by taking over in rounds 4 and 5. But if that's a 3-round fight, probably looking at a 29-28 loss in that one. And her wrestling was just nullified, right? Completely made a non-factor, and that's supposed to be her selling point. As best I could understand from the commentary, I'll do a little bit more research in that regard. This is a fight that I've done seldom research on, but I wasn't impressed, frankly, by either woman. The one thing I will note is Thainara seems like she's going to need to get on top of most of her opponents to win her fights. That's what I was seeing in the footage. She's getting on top of a lot of these women going for takedowns. And when she was unable to do that against Bruna Brazil, and when she was getting owned a little bit in the grappling exchanges, I didn't really like how she responded to that. The way that fight ended against the fence, not a great look for me either. Probably could have seen a little bit more competent defense there. So I think that the longer the fight goes, the more I kind of like Conceicao in terms of what she's shown from a cardiovascular standpoint. She does seem to be, probably a slightly better athlete, but I can't say that I was blown away by either woman's technique. Conceicao's wrestling, again, just didn't translate against a higher level opponent. And it didn't seem like Eleni Lopez was a world beater, with all due respect. It just seemed like she had a competent, well-rounded game, and that was enough to stuff down all the takedowns. And it required her striking. Her opponent needed to be tired for it to look really effective, I felt. Otherwise, she just looked to be a little stiff and awkward, especially when exchanging. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this fight. I'm curious what the odds are. I've been able to avoid the odds this week for the most part, so I'm certainly curious. But we'll kick it over to my guy Gordo as I take a look at the odds here.
Yeah, man. Tell me what you think of them. I don't have too much of a strong take on this one. This isn't my favorite fight in the world. I think both these have their flaws. I think neither of these fighters who are people who I want to back at anything close to evens really, because I think they have flaws in their game. But we're here to pick winners, and I think in doing so, I am going to side with the Rose Conceicao side here. Now, not with too much conviction. I do think if we look at this as a whole, I think the better pure technical striker is probably Thainara. I think the better pure grappler is also Thainara. I just think that the person who's able to blend it in better is going to be a girl in Conceicao here. I think she does have the better wrestling. It wasn't really shown recently, but she does have that background. She does work at a decent camp, and I do think she does have that in her back pocket. And I have seen Thainara suck a bottom position, be controlled before. So I think that the difference in the striking is minimal enough to allow the physicality and of wrestling of Rose to take over down the stretch. And I do think she's someone who's just able to go out there and blend in her game better. I completely understand there's going to be aspects where Thainara is going to be the better fighter, but I just can't really trust her to go out there and execute a perfect game plan 15 minutes when she can be taken down. Her herself can be hit on the feet as well. And I'm not really liking the total product I'm getting from Thainara. So I'm picking Conceicao here. Don't want to play her at chalk. Don't really want to have too much action on this fight. I think more times than not, Rose goes out there, mixes in her weapons, and it goes out there, wins a decision, but not too much meat left in the bone for this one.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is if you look at the Tapology predictions, 80% of the predictions are on Conceicao. But then if you look at the market, Thainara is sitting at about a minus 125 favorite across the board. So certainly some of the bigger money players are disagreeing with the wider market take, let's say. But let's hear what our guy Pierce has to say. I'm so curious. My brother from another, what do you got?
Yeah, so my first thoughts on this fight is, damn, this is a quick turnaround for Odie Osborne to be making a Contender Series debut. Then I had to do a double take, and no, I realized it was Alexia Thainara, and this is my first money line bet of the night, and my only one at the moment. I played Thainara around plus 112 earlier today for about 3 units, and I don't know. I looked into this later last week before odds came out, and I gave her like 65%. I honestly feel like Rose, they hype her up to be like some 7-time national wrestling champion, and then it's like you watch her last fight, bro, and I'm like, who was she wrestling to get these titles against, bro? Because I honestly don't think her wrestling's that good. I mean, I saw her get mounted, and she gave up dominant positions in her last fight, and it was a fight where I think Liam touched on it. Like if it was 3 rounds, she would have lost. And I honestly thought even if 5 rounds, I thought she potentially could have lost there. So it's a bit surprising to see a unanimous decision for Rose. But my main premise behind the play is that I just think Thainara is going to go for it more. She's more physical. And I mean, I'm just going to be honest. She fights like a man. And I feel like in women's MMA, you give me the girl that's just more aggressive. She's going to go for it more. And I feel like if Thainara can get on top, I mean, I like her jiu-jitsu on top. She's very aggressive. She's got good back takes. And I feel like Rose, I didn't like how she gave up mount so easily her last fight. And I mean, when you look at the striking, it's like, I think it cancels out if I'm being honest. So if I think Thainara is more aggressive and she's got more finishing ability on the mat, I feel like you got to make her a slight favorite here. Whereas like Rose, I just think she's mid everywhere, man. She doesn't really check the boxes for me. And I think Thainara is the person they want to win here. And I mean, you talked about the Bruno Brazil fight. I mean, she was 21 years old, so we need to give her a benefit of the doubt. It's not like she's fighting I mean, they're both not fighting the best competition, but I would say Thainara probably fought better opposition of the two. I mean, she did look good against Ray and Amanda back in the day, about like 3 years ago. I mean, that's a quality win. I mean, it's better than any win Rose has on her record. So I feel like Thainara, she's more aggressive. She's going to go for it more. And I'll take that girl at plus money. Even around pick'em, I probably would make her a play as well. So line her about minus 150. So, I mean, if you can get in at minus 120 right now, I don't think that's a bad play.
Yeah, I was doing a quick Instagram stalk to see if I could find what belt rank she is. I could not find it. Potentially that information's available elsewhere, but she's training every day with Amanda Hebas. So I do think that's a good preparation. Amanda also is a girl that doesn't look like she'd be super physical, but is pretty physical. So in terms of a lean here, I guess I will lean with my guy Pierce on the Alexia side. The one thing that I will say is the face-off between the two, I expected there to be a little bit more of a size disparity. It wasn't quite there. I'm trying to look and see if Tapology, excuse me, has the measurables for this fight listed out. They don't have a reach listed out, but we could pull up the face-off real quick just so you guys get a perspective. The girl, Thainara, super confident, coming in like right up into her face. So I definitely see where Pierce is coming from an aura perspective. We can pull this up real quick, but did you guys have any thoughts from a prop betting perspective? I know some people asked about the round 2 and 3, the submission angles. I did think there may be some merit there, potentially in either direction. From the Rose standpoint, if she's able to get her takedown game going, get on the back, maybe she could leverage some physicality from there, but I just didn't see enough in her last fight to think that her takedowns are going to be there against who I think is probably a slightly less athletic opponent. What about you, Gordo?
Yeah, as someone who went the, let's say, chalkier route and took the favorite to win by decision, there's not too much left there. I think when you look at Rose to win by decision is plus 140, so nothing left there. But I wasn't too bullish on my standpoint here. I'm still someone who is left to be swayed. And if Pierce is as confident he is, if I'm putting together all the points that Pierce is saying, that he's like, oh, this girl has more finishing ability. Rose went out there, she gave up mount, and Thainara, someone who can control from top position. If you can get mount, if you're willing to give up the position, I do think Thainara is aggressive, and plus 1800 KO line is a bit wide for someone like that in Thainara. Additionally, the one discredit I did give to Rose, I think Rose is fine with her looping shots, but she is hittable. I do think the straighter shots go to Thainara on the feet. So if you're looking for a long shot, I think Thainara by KO is a bit wide. It'll probably end up wider on domestics, but not too much I'm liking here. I did end up picking Rose by decision.
Looks like she's an Eagles fan as well. So fly Eagles, fly Thainara, fly. Let's go.
Love it. Well, we'll have to see how this one shakes out. There's certainly a lot more research I need to do on this one. I've only watched a handful of these women's fights. This was the last fight I was researching before we got on the air. So stay tuned for more analysis and breakdowns in my articles that I post on Patreon. But for me, this is a fight that I didn't feel, extremely anxious to go bet on either one of these women. I think both of them have pretty noticeable flaws, but we've also seen a little bit more development, I would say, from Thainara, from that young performance. Fair play to Pierce on the 21 years of age. You could definitely grow a lot from there. So next up, guys. Apologies, absolutely bugging on me. Which fight do we have next, gentlemen?
Vallejos and Teague.
Oh, there we go. Our returning act. Kevin Vallejos got worked in rounds 2 and 3, but he offered some real resistance in round 1 to Jean Silva. And it was just a huge power differential. John Silva, how he didn't knock him out in round 2, I really don't understand. When you saw he got hit with a huge knee, an overhand right, and he's got a chin on him, man. He also was getting busted up a little bit with calf kicks in that fight. So Vallejos showed his heart, showed his toughness, didn't get finished. We've seen a lot of guys at the UFC level can't make it 15 minutes with John Silva. So that's a good sign in his direction. However, on the other side, Cam Teague went out there and busted up Austin Lingo, first guy in professional MMA to stop him with strikes. He got finished one other time. I had to edit my tweet because the first time I wrote it, I just said finished, but it was finished with strikes. That's the small little distinction there. But Austin Lingo fought some tough guys in the UFC, and he went out there and had some 15-minute wars. So it took a real effort from Teague. The one thing I will say right off the rip before I kick it to my great guest is Cam Teague has a chin from just south of Hades. This guy, I've just seen him stand there and take the cleanest shots you've ever seen over and over. He normally doesn't show any kind of tell or reaction. So both these guys have been matched up because of their outrageous chins. So should be a fascinating fight here. Gordo, what do you think about this one, my man? We'll kick it to you first.
Yeah, I remember Vallejos fight very well, and I went back, looked at my prediction for it. I was pretty bullish on the Vallejos side. He's like a minus 200 favorite, and I'm like, this kid's good. He's young. I wasn't a big Jean Silva fan, and you look back at things, you make the wrong predictions. I ended up betting the over in that fight, so I still came out with a little bit of profit there, but I had the read wrong. I picked Vallejos. I didn't think Jean Silva was that good. I put in there Vallejos going to be able to win more minutes. Jean Silva is KO or bust, and Silva's proved me wrong so far, but it's interesting to see the development from someone like Vallejos, someone who, was favored in this matchup. Now is is a year older, has got more experience under his belt, is still a really good prospect. And I'm really liking that Argentinian wave we're getting coming down here. You have the Prados, you have all these fun fighters coming out here who just look to finish these fights. They go forward. Esteban Ribovich showed that at UFC Noche. They go forward, throw the fight any intention, and look, just take your head off. And they have insane durability. They have insane heart. They have really really good cardio, and they have the ability to compete in the mat as well, shall it go there. And this style of fight is really what Vallejos brings. He's young, he's got a ton of volume, he's very aggressive on the feet, a ton of power in his own right, and this dude can take a beating. The guy isn't actually a pretty decent prospect, in my opinion. I think when he faces the higher echelon, like a Jean Silva, although he's super tough, he's there to be hit and he's there to be countered. And I think that will lead to some potential loss in the UFC. But I think skill for skill, this guy's got some talent, and I understand why he's such a big favorite. Watching the Cam Teague fights, I wasn't exactly as blown away. I think when it looks skill for skill, the way more skilled fighter, in my opinion, is Vallejos, but Teague showed heart, he showed aggression, and he showed cardio. And as one of my mentors taught me in Liam Picks Fights, ABCs, you always bet on cardio. So when you got a guy like Teague going out there, that's someone that goes out there and does display that, it is fun to watch. But when we're breaking down this fight as a whole, I have to go with Vallejos. I think he's not only a guy who has the cardio and durability to do exactly what Teague does, which is withstand damage. I think he's just much quicker at the hands. I think he's got much better hand speed. I think he's got a lot of technicality. He throws with fight-ending intention as well. And I think he is someone who is a very dangerous fighter. I think he's able to win this fight. Now, to the point where I want to play Vallejos at minus 450, maybe not. Teague has shown some good durability, shown some ability to face adversity. So I'm not really getting to it there. But when it comes to a pick perspective, I don't mind Vallejos. Now, here's what I'm interested in. Last time I played the over, I thought both guys had durability, and I do think both guys have durability here too. But now it's kind of flipping the other way. Now the under is gaining resistance. And although both these guys are extremely durable, I have some keen interest towards it because they're both going to go forward. They're both going to throw with fighting and intention. And I think Vallejos is going to land on Teague early. That chin is not been cracked yet. I completely understand why the line is the way it is. But when these guys are being thrown out as much as it is, I think the hand speed is going to be huge for Vallejos early. I think he's going to have options. Whereas Teague has shown that although he doesn't have that same power, like he just threw so much, Lingo couldn't defend himself later. It is someone where he does able to come on late. So I'm having some interest in the under. The pick is Vallejos. I do think this is pretty good. I think the hand speed early is going to be a keen decider in this matchup. But as the fight goes on, Teague's going to definitely offer some resistance.
Yeah, and you've got two very young guys here, 26 years of age for Teague, 22 years of age for Vallejos. Vallejos got to the Contender Series at a super young age and gave a pretty solid performance, but he's still just 22. So, he's still a young man. He's still growing into his body. There's still some room for growth there. Teague did have an amateur career as well. He got a lot of cage time and experience there. And he basically said on interviews that I listened to, like, hey, if I had 5 rounds to work with in those amateur fights, I think I win them all. If they were pro fights and they're 3 5-minute rounds, I think I win them all. He's like, I just couldn't get him tired enough in the amount of time that I had. He's out there to make people tired and try and break them down that way. And I do think that we kind of saw that's a blueprint that could work against Vallejos, against John Silva, because John Silva looked objectively worse at MMA compared to Vallejos in the early going. And then he just kept pressing forward, kept being aggressive, and started to assert himself. And you kind of saw Vallejos shell up a little bit. He hasn't faced that much resistance regionally. You could say the same thing about Cam Teague, but again, I think he fought a pretty solid quality of opposition on the amateur circuit. So I think he's a guy that understands his way around the cage. Fun fight for me. Pierce, how do you see this one?
Man, so can we just need to get a moment of silence because we were supposed to get Kevin Vallejos versus Luke Riley this year. Okay, there's my moment of silence. And yeah, my man Kevin, he's got to keep his head focused, man. He's talking about fighting Luke Riley when he gets in the UFC, fighting Evalev when he gets to win this week. And it's like, my man, you're fighting Cam fucking Teague, bro. You're fighting Homer fucking Simpson, bro. You better lock in. And my issue with Vallejos is like, yeah, he's a good prospect. The kid's obviously got good boxing, and it's like there's a reason why they're bringing him back at such a young age. They see a lot of potential in him, and I mean, at the end of the day, we bet based on the price tags that we are given. And I mean, I don't think I'm gonna play Teague at plus 300 because I tend to think that's more towards accurate. But if this money on Vallejos keeps coming in, if I can get like 5-1 or like 450 on Teague, man, I might have to make a play just solely on the fact that he has a lot of these intangibles that you look for when you're betting on fighters. He has a durability. He's gonna fight for your money, and he's gonna keep pushing forward. And one thing when I was taping Vallejos that I didn't like. I think he's a good boxer, but I don't like his I think he could maybe have some more power. I don't think he's a one-hitter quitter type of guy. And it's like if you're not putting Teague on his ass and putting him unconscious, man, it's like this dude's not gonna fuck off. And one thing I did notice in this fight is I don't think Vallejos fights well off the back foot. He's a great hammer, and then as we saw in the Gene Silva fight, he's maybe not the best nails. So it's like if T can maybe dictate who's going forward in the fight. I feel like that could maybe give Vallejos some problems. I guess just mainly my thought process here is like, do I really want to play Cam Teague pre-fight when I know like round one he's probably going to take a lot of damage? There's a chance he could get slept just based on the fact of how hittable he is. And I don't know, Cam Teague seems like the type of I know. I was looking at that too, 20-1. That's Cam Teague's fucking style is to break guys. So it's like might as well poke at that and maybe look to fish for a live bet after 5 minutes because I think Cam Teague's the type of guy where it's like it could be like Aaron Tal versus Elijah Smith, where it's like he has his moments in round 3 because of the cardio aspect of the fight and he doesn't get the decision. But if this fight's going into round 3 and it's 1-1, I know who I got my fucking money on, and that's Cam fucking Teague. But yeah, dog or pass for me. Wouldn't be parlaying Vallejos. If I would play Vallejos, I would look at maybe a decision prop just solely on the fact that I think Teague's a tough guy to get out of there. It would either be decision or submission, in my opinion. But yeah, dog or pass on the money line standpoint. Maybe look for a live bet on Teague here.
I tend to agree with you, my man. I think when you look at these fights, you have to look at styles and how they make matchups. And for me, a guy like Vallejos, he brings a fun style. If you're a fragile fighter, he's probably just going to destroy you early. He's going to run you over. But if you can take the shots, for me, it's like if he doesn't go to the body here and like force this guy down with a liver shot or something like that, I just seen this guy from his amateur career to the pro career never get better at defense, take clean shots his whole career, and just like tries to draw it out of you, tries to pick away at you with his own shots to the body and things to make you tired. And Austin Lingo was looking over at his corner like, dude, what do I do to this guy? Because he's lining up his clean right hand, left hook to follow, trying to really set down on his shots, and he just couldn't really get him to fold or break. So I think that Vallejos, fun fighter, he's going to come out and probably win the first round here, but I feel like money line, round 2, round 3 could all have value here. Decision as well. I think if this goes to the cards, the guy who's going to have done more based on what we've seen from these two guys is probably Cam. So those are the kind of thoughts that I have. But I do think Vallejos is a fun guy. He doesn't lack for confidence. He's doing a lot of the things that UFC likes, calling out guys, saying, hey, I'll take the fight on short notice with Evloev after I handle business here. If he comes in and knocks this guy out in the first round, they're going to have a ready-made future star on their hands, right? A guy that they could build around. But I do think that this is a tough ask. And a guy that doesn't look like much in Cam Teague, it just kind of looks like a guy from around the block. But he does seem to me like a pretty competent fighter, a guy who's got enough cage experience that he could be surprising people here. And before we get off this fight, I just want to show the screen here. And Gordo, if you had any thoughts on the props, please feel free to go ahead. But I just wanted to show this for everybody so they get an idea of what we're looking at here. He is the taller fighter, the longer fighter in this spot, and he's the significant underdog. So a couple of different things to keep in the back of our minds here.
Yeah, I think prop market wise, I tend to lean violence here. Like I said, last time I did pick Vallejos fight to go over. I think they're both extremely durable, but it seems like one of these ones where Vallejos is going to win this first round early. And I think in order for, I think we disagree on this part, but I think in order for Teague to win this fight, he's probably going to have to take over and really emphatically win the later rounds or potentially get a finish. And although Vallejos has been super durable as well, he can be hit. And for that reason, those round 2, those round 3 props on someone like Teague are extremely juicy. If you're looking to cover your bases though, the under isn't as juiced as I thought it would be. I expect this to come out a bit wider. I think the under is something I might play itself. I mean, how many times have we seen these super durable guys, even though they're able to withstand all this damage, just get stopped by the fact that they're not defending themselves properly, right? A Chris Mutino who can eat everything as well, but sometimes he just gets backed up along the cage and can't do anything, right? So to me, when Liam looks like he want to say something on that, but
I was gonna say, dude, to your point, it reminds me when you think of Vallejos in that last fight, right? There was a few times he was like shelling up and he looked like he might be ready to get out of there. But Gene Silva tries to line up a highlight reel, like a home run, like everything is like one big combination or jump for a flying knee. And it's not really sustained offense. And that could be the difference maker here, I feel. So I think you just hit on a really smart point.
And Teague is all just sustained offense. That's what he really is here. So I think it's one where more times than not, I think this fight ends by KO. So give me the under, give me the KO props, give me some late props on Teague. I think it's major win condition. I think that's the way I would attack this one. I don't think it's really smart to play either side pre-flop, just because I do think that the line is a bit wide of Vallejos. I'm picking him to win. I just not a guy I would parlay. And if you want a guy like Teague, I think I'd rather play the late props or get a live entry on him.
Yeah, the one thing I will investigate a little bit more before I part ways with my money is just how Teague's grappling is. It looked fine to me in the fights that I watched, but I didn't see all that much of it. So I want to know a little bit more about it. Vallejos is a willing wrestler. Gene Silva was able to pretty easily shut down his wrestling attempts, but it was something that he kept going back to even as he got a little more tired. So I want to just see that Teague can shut down those attempts, because if he can, I think he's going to make it a very honest fight. But with that being said, fellas, we're going to kick off the next fight. I'm going to kick it to Pierce to mix things up for our first breakdown on Kevin, Christian, and Francesco Mazzeo. And I am going to close the windows here in the studio. I can still hear everything in my headphones, but the outside noise of traffic is driving me insane. So I'm going to go close that right now. Please, Pierce, kick off with your thoughts on the Christian fight.
Yeah, of course. Liam's gonna kick off a Cage Warriors bum fight to me. Your Cage Warriors expert, and I'm here to tell you that even though Francisco Mazzeo fucking sucks, I think he's gonna win this fight. Because when you look at Kevin Christian, man, oh man, oh man, this is a funny fight. You got Kevin Christian, 6 foot fucking 7, used to fight at lightweight, 155, and this dude was 6 foot 7. It blew my fucking mind. And you look like, actually, no, I'm not gonna say anything, but it's just bizarre that he made it all the way up. No, I was gonna say he looked like some kid that's starving a little bit too much, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, when I look at Mazzeo, man, I know he's gassy. The Angus Hewitt fight, Angus Hewitt, for my Cage Warriors fans, 1-4 fighter. Everybody bet him last week, didn't go so hot, but hey, we'll get him next time with Angus Hewitt. But that win was a loss in my eyes. Isn't aging too well. But Mazzeo, bad cardio, because his style is just like he doesn't conserve energy at all. This dude is balls to the walls from the minute the bell rings, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense why he slows down. But then when you look at Kevin Christian, it's like this dude just goes for it from the jump too. I mean, his fight against Porto, he came off like a 4 or 5 year layoff and was a big underdog in LFA Brazil, and then this Porto guy decides to swing dicks with him, and Christian dogged it out, man. They both got dropped in that fight, but Christian, in round 2 just came out more hot. He Porto gassed out a little bit, and that's where Christian was able to find the finish. But my issue with Christian is that he swings very wide, very looping punches, and it's like Mazzeo. I know this guy doesn't have the best cardio, but his boxing offensively is honestly pretty good. In my opinion, he throws straight shots. He's got a lot of power down the middle, and it's like my philosophy is if you got two big boys throwing it out, what's going to get there first, the overhand right or the straight right down the middle? And, I think Mazzeo is going to find the knockout in round 1. I played some KO for Mazzeo around like plus 200, and then I played Mazzeo's round 1 prop as well, around like 3-1 there as well. I just think if Mazzeo wins, I'd rather have those props because I don't see him winning if this fight gets extended. But yeah, honestly, if I had to pick a money line, I'm picking Mazzeo, man. I think this should be pick 'em bare minimum.
I'm fascinated that you say that. And I can see where you're coming from, because both these guys are extremely flawed fighters. So unknowns push the line a little bit closer to 50-50. But my instinct is towards John Anik's ABCs, man. Always been on cardio here. And this guy was gassing out in 3.5 minutes in these fights. It's absolutely unbelievable. Professional athletes, 27 years of age as well. But you're right. When you fight like that, it's just not sustainable. So he goes out there, animalistic tendencies, likes to go out there and look to go for the kill, swings big, swings heavies. But I definitely was not impressed by that fight, with Hewitt. Even some of the other fights that he's had, like he's not fighting very quality opponents, and he's going out there and just swinging very wildly, taking a lot of huge risks. The one thing I will note is if you look at Kevin Christian, the one fight that I feel gives me some faith that he could win a fight like this is the Porto fight, where Porto was a big favorite and everybody expected him to come out there and crush him because he looks a little bit more athletic. And honestly, he came out there and almost knocked him out instantly, right? Like he came out, landed his big shots, put him down. But you can see that he's got some instincts on the ground. He knows how to play off of his back. So kind of like a Charles Oliveira, right? To make a very loose comparison, when you knock down some guys, you're just going to spaz on them on the ground, right? But other guys, you're like, I should be a little bit more careful. If I try and do that, this guy might throw something up. He might try and triangle, armbar, whatever. And this is a guy I think you actually have to worry about that with. He likes to go out there and strike, but I'm telling you, dude, this Hewitt guy is like almost putting him in a triangle while he's half exhausted from his back. I'm like, This guy is long. Like lanky, long guys have an advantage in that guard play dynamic. So if you take this guy down or knock him down, I think you're going to have some problems to deal with for most of these guys, especially really low-level guys with no skill, which is where I think Mazzeo is. And then on the feet, he's going to look for counters all night. That's exactly what he was doing. He got clipped one time and he got put down really bad, and then he got back up and then started finding the counter multiple times. Porto was coming in, swinging and like going for these short little shots, and he would just step offline and use his length and just throw like a hooking shot at where he thought you were going to be. And because he's really long, he was landing a lot of them. And he was able to put that guy down really bad in that fight. Good finishing instinct. So for me, I didn't think that Porto is like a world beater or something like that, but he did seem like a good analog for Mazzeo. And Mazzeo is fighting just the dregs, just terrible fighters. So for me, I feel like Kevin Christian should be a slight favorite here, but not a significant favorite. Somebody in my Patreon who's very sharp said, does anybody else feel like this Kevin Christian guy is a walking knockout waiting to happen? And yeah, he definitely is. Like his chin is way up in the air. That could happen in this fight as well. But if for me, this would be a fight where I expected a Kevin Christian to be like a 4-1 that didn't deserve to be or something. I was kind of surprised to see the line be so close just because of the measurables. He's a big, long guy. He looks a little bit more the part. He's had more professional fights. Mazzeo's only had a handful of pro fights. And especially that one fight that aged quite poorly, I feel. But in any case, you can never have too much confidence in a weight class like this. There's a lot of randomness. There's a lot of variance. How do you feel about this one, Gordo? Break the tie.
You heard it here first. Liam thinks that Kevin Christian's the next champ of the UFC here, guys. You heard it here first.
He's the next Charles Oliveira.
Yep, Charles Oliveira.
Right up there next to Charles, dude.
Direct comparison, guys. Get your notebooks ready. No, I kind of felt bad breaking on this one. I went on VB MMA's picks, friend of the show. Shout out to VB. I went on a show the other day, and a lot of people make fun of me because I'm usually a positive guy. Established the run. My boss over there is like, you're too enthusiastic about everything. Yeah, I was not. I felt bad with her VB because I was just there and I was like, this fight sucks. I don't know why this is going on. I don't think either of these guys deserve to really be on the show. And the main point I got from this one was that no matter who wins, I kind of hope they make it to the UFC just so I can fade them eventually. I think both these guys have major flaws in their game. I think both these guys are going to fade down the stretch. And the reason that I'm going to fade them so much because of those flaws, it kind of correlates to a fight that I kind of just retaped last week, so it's fresh in my mind. But it's kind of like the Mantella versus Kutsyi fight, right? The fact that I think both those guys have flaws. I think one side of things, you got a guy with a clear grappling edge who has a chin deficiency versus a guy who's just like kind of a pure striker. But at the end of the day, you're just going to fade them both. Like neither of these guys should win. And guess what? We faded both Kutsyi and Mantella successfully. So there we go. A lot of negativity on this one, but I truly think both these guys have their flaws. Mazzeo, I'm not a fan of what I'm seeing cardio-wise, grappling-wise, even technicality on the feet-wise. He just throws with a lot of power. He's really athletic, and if he finds the chin, he can land the shot. And I think against 99% of the UFC roster, he loses due to either death gassing or just being taken down. But he has an opponent in front of him, Christian, who I was like not a fan of either. A guy in Christian who, yes, has a solid opportunistic submission game, like Liam mentioned, but don't like the tall man striking defense, who's I think still a pretty slow counter striker. He's got decent accuracy with it, but I still think pretty slow. And even at that, not the most aggressive takedown artist, a guy who I think has his flaws and a guy who is kind of a bit rustier when it comes to fight experience as well. So I think both these guys have their flaws. I think I was looking towards playing an under, but that is juiced here as well. I think more times than not, it does end early, whether it be Mazzeo landing that powerful shot. And we're like, man, the guy who doesn't really move his head off the center line and Kevin Christian getting knocked out. Whoa, how didn't we call it? Or Christian gets that submission within a minute. We're like, wow, Mazzeo, a guy who's really only had 2 fights, gets submitted by the black belt. It's like, it's going to look very easy in hindsight, but I do think at the end of the day, it's one that could go either way. Because of that, I did pick Mazzeo, which is disgusting because when I filmed the video with VB, he was like plus 160. And I'm like,
well, that's the tiebreaker then. It's Mazzeo. Yeah, the squad pick is Mazzeo, but I can't ride. I can't ride with the squad.
No, dude. It's brutal though. The main reason I did that was just because I think that they're both bums and neither of them should be favored. So Dalton Kincaid jersey right now going on. Let's shout out. But
hey, cash the plus 260 ATD.
Shout out to my boy Dalton. But no, at the end of the day, this fight is one where I did end up picking Mazzeo. However, I don't think either of these guys are good. Just the way I see this fight playing out, it should be either Mazzeo early knockout, Christian early submission. Both those lines are kind of chalked. I'm hoping they open up better on domestic books to get some value there. But one that I think ends early, and we fade whoever makes to the UFC.
Gordo, I have a question for you.
I have
So
an answer.
when it comes to the world of mixed martial arts, and you point to these countries that you think have the best talent, we have Italy against Canada. Who's winning?
Oh man, we all know my favorite Italian fighter. No, we don't actually. I can't really think of one.
I couldn't even name one to tell you, bro.
Alessio
Garagori.
Jericho, come on, guys.
Jericho, you're
Mr. Hood of
right.
the traveling head
That's
kick.
not a good role model for the kids, bro. This was the guy that was getting pissed drunk in Vegas, bro. We don't want Alessio Di Chirico to be the face of Italian MMA.
You know who I
Well,
think kicks some
Marvin
ass in the
Vittori is
UFC?
the only other choice. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough. We don't got good options.
No, you know who can kick ass in the UFC, bro? Get Mario and Luigi in there, all right? Those Italians can definitely come through, man. I'm telling you.
We need
Francis-
Al
they could
Zolini, the
could-
Italian MMA journalist, to let us know who the face of Italian MMA should be. That's a deep cut for y'all that are on MMA Twitter.
But the
in
answer
any case,
Canada.
please.
Canada.
You just said that so you wouldn't get deported. I under.
I'm in the
Vittori's
States
0-1 at the casino, brother. Remember that. This is UFC Paris Fight Week. Brendan Allen is 0-1 at the casino. You got to remember.
That's who I was thinking of. I was trying so hard to think of Zucchini's name, bro.
Oh, Manolo Zucchini. Of course, dude. The
That's
GOAT, dude. If he ever fights in the UFC again, I'll be fired up, man. It's been a while. We need another Manolo Zucchini fight. That will bring us world peace. But in any case, guys, let's move along to the next fight on the card. We've got Daniel Frunza taking on Vadym Kutsyi. And this is another fight where I kind of get weird vibes from a guy who's 17-1. I'm surprised by the record, given how that Nardiev fight was going. You know, it looked like his leg was hurt. It looked like he was ready to check out. It looked like he was completely gassed out. And then he landed a huge shot and killed the guy. And God bless him for it. I mean, it was a great win, but he hasn't fought since 2022. And now he's coming back off of a pretty decent layoff. He's had 3 fights since 2020. So he's not a supremely active competitor, and he's got a good resume, but he fought Abukar Yandiev back in 2016. And I think he hurt his leg in that fight as well. Cause like there was a weird exchange where he goes for a kick and then he just like retracts his leg and the guy falls on top of him with ground and pound and they stop the fight. So I don't know if he's got like weirdly vulnerable legs because like in the 2 fights that I watched, which was the fight that he lost and his most recent fight, his legs got hurt in both of them. So he's doing the Sean O'Malley dance, right? Where it looks like his legs are not built for war necessarily. And I understand, right? Not everybody's built to be kicked in the leg. It's a weird thing, but it seems like a point of liability, right? If I was in the camp of the other guy, I'd be like, hey man, go out there and kick him in the calf a few times, see what happens, right? He might just fall over. And then on the Frunza side, if you look at his game, I saw the Jalen Fuller fight. That was where I was able to watch some of his tape. And he looked pretty solid there. I mean, it wasn't the longest fight. It didn't show off that much of his game, but it showed off the fact he's willing to push the guy in the clinch, willing to get in the guy's face. Jalen Fuller, they were talking about his front choke series, his ability to work in there. He pushed through that, threw some big shots on the break, and, knocked him into next Tuesday. He landed a lot of really hard shots there. So I thought that his losses looked solid as well. Obviously he lost to a 7-7 fighter in his pro debut, but that's a 14-fight veteran against a 0-0 guy. We've seen a million people lose their pro debut. So I normally throw that loss out if somebody has it. And then Gary Boletto Jr., he's only lost to good guys. So I don't know. I can't speak to his skill in particular, but I just glanced at his topology and I was like, oh, he's losing to UFC fighters. He's boxing. Like the guy's just 1 foot in, 1 foot out with MMA, but he's a talented fighter. There's no doubt in my mind. So for me, it feels like Frunza maybe has some upside. He's been much more active lately. I talked about, what was it? 3 fights since 2020 for his opponent Kutsyi here. And obviously he's the more experienced guy overall, but since 2020, we've seen the Gary Boletto Jr. loss and then 4 wins rattled off in a row on the other side. So a little bit more activity for Frunza. And I feel like he's a guy that's going to go out there. He's going to strike aggressively. And I don't think that his cardio is poor, right? He has a couple wins later on in the late rounds, and I didn't get a chance to watch him, but just looking at the opponent on the other side, Kutsyi again looked gassed to me in the Nardiev fight and looked like he was about to be on death's door, and then he landed a huge knockout shot. But I'm a little bit skeptical of his cardio, barring further research. Gordo, we'll kick it to you first, my man. How do you feel about this fight? And do you think that I'm up Shit's Creek without a paddle? Is my opinion crazy here?
No, I don't think it is. Before I do jump in, just want to apologize to my boy Huervos. I'm French Canadian. I speak fast sometimes. Dalton Kincaid looking good, 3-0. All right, out the door. I spoke fast last time because I was so passionate about how, questionable that last fight was. And, I had so many negative comparisons in my head. I was kind of just flying through them. This fight here, I got some nicer things to say. I think both these guys could have some success in the UFC, but I think they bring different styles. I think you look at a guy in Vadym Kutsyi, I think he's the better overall mixed martial artist. I'll put it up front. The guy is pretty good technically on the feet. He does throw loopier shots, but a guy who I do think can compete on there. I think he's very solid on the mat, good physicality. I think he can compete in all facets of mixed martial arts. I think the guy is a pretty decent fighter. You look at a guy in Frunza, and I think he's more one-dimensional. I don't like him being stalled against the cage. I don't like him being taken down, but the guy has shown good physicality. He has shown improvements in his overall games, and the guy's got a lot of power on the feet. And this guy throws heavy. I think he's a pretty smart individual as well, and he's also somebody who goes out there and looks to press that finish. And I think that's very interesting in a battle like this, where although Kutsyi may be the better technical fighter, a guy who would maybe a bit more fragile, we can compare the two, right? It's like if we lock these guys in a cage for 5 minutes, who's going to win the judges' scorecards? Kutsyi. Whereas if you ask me who wins a fight to the death in a street fight, it's probably a guy in Frunza here, right? Who is just kind of more animalistic, kind of more ability to go out there and find that kill. So I think it's an interesting matchup. I did end up picking Kutsyi as just the guy who's able to get it done in more aspects. And I do think if he gets it down to the ground, is someone who I do think can have some success down there. But I agree with you in the fact that this line's wide. I think Frunza is able to land some big shots. I don't like the fragility of Kutsyi. I don't like his cardio. And although he could look like the much better fighter if this fight hits the mat early on, there are so many intangibles that I don't really want to parlay someone like Kutsyi at, minus 225, minus 275 where he is now. Instead, I have some keen interest towards potentially the under here. I think Kutsyi could get it done on the mat early on or could fold down the stretch. And even a Frunza KO line at plus 350 or better on domestics is something I wouldn't mind playing here. Fun fight. I did pick Kutsyi due to his upside, but I do think the more consistent fighter with a solid game plan here is Frunza, and I don't mind you taking the shot on him as a dog this week.
Yeah, if I was looking to play the Kutsyi side, I would probably just be looking at the sub prop, the early sub prop, the early round props, things like that, because Pierce is shaking his head no, so I'm curious what he thinks. But for me, that's just the way that I see, his opponent getting beat here. That's how he's lost his previous fights. And he does have 7 wins on his record by submission. I question maybe the level of competition those are against, but let's kick it to our guy Pierce and hear what he has to say. My brother, tell me where I've gone wrong.
He looks ready, though. He looks ready to talk.
Brother, I have seen Daniel Frunza survive a rear naked choke under the chin from Lindsey Jones, bro. This guy, he ain't gonna tap to some what is it? Is it Belarus? He ain't gonna tap to some BJJ white belt from Belarus. But I didn't even know what the proper term was, so we'll leave it at that. Belarusian. That's probably not fucking right, but it's okay.
If we're going out here naming Italian fighters, let's go Belarusian fighters. Andrei Arlovsky, anybody? Come on. That's
it. I don't even know if he's
that's their only champion.
I'm looking at Tapology, and you go to Daniel Frunza, and you go, where is he fighting out of? It says Carpi, Italy. Seems to be a proper theme on this card. The UFC is looking for these Italians, even though this guy he doesn't look Italian, I'll tell you that. But Daniel Frunza, yeah, I think it's dog or pass here, man. Vadym Kutsyi, it's like, you smell that, right? Smells like a shit prospect. Hey, this dude's a fraud, bro. I'm being honest. Like Vadym Kutsyi, I looked at this guy, I'm like 17-1. Why is he coming on the Contender Series? And then you watch the tape and you know why he's coming on the Contender Series, because they were damn well not going to sign this guy straight up, bro. This guy, I respect that. It's when you look at it from a surface level, you're like, okay, he's fighting good records. But then, like, when you actually watch the fights, it's like, it amazes me, like, how some man can achieve 17-1, whereas, like, now you got, like, this guy in Daniel Frunza who's 8-2, and I honestly think he's going to beat his ass. But I haven't bet it yet because I am waiting for Kutsyi parlay money to come in. Maybe it doesn't happen, maybe it does, but I honestly think Frunza is a good dog play here. I was a bit just being a bit bullish saying he's going to beat his ass. I mean, obviously there's some concerns in this matchup for Frunza. His takedown defense is not the best, and Kutsyi, we did see 2 fights ago that he uses grappling to get the job done. But I kind of look at Kutsyi as like a striker. I mean, he's a Pancration base, so Pancration champion. So he's like more of a guy that likes to stay on the outside and uses kicks, which is that could be a plausible thing on the feet. I mean, the leg kicks from Kutsyi could be free just based on the fact that Frunza plods forward. But it's like, I don't know. There's something about this Frunza guy, man. It's like he's kind of a badass, bro. Like the way he stays in your face, he has that teep up the middle, which is beautiful. And I honestly wouldn't put it past him to find a knockout on this Kutsyi guy. This guy keeps his hands down. He exits the pocket with his chin in the air, and it's like Frunza hits hard, bro. We saw him knock out Jalen Fuller, Harris Taludnik, which is probably it's a really underrated win, honestly. I think Harris is really good. The way he knocked him out, man, wouldn't put it past him to knock out this 33-year-old fraud. And it's like, I thought Dana don't sign prospects over the age of 30. So why is Kutsyi? Didn't some guy do that last week and he got swept?
Hey, you got to take it case by case, my brother. But yeah, I forgot to show that last fight breakdown, so I wanted to show that. This is the fight we're breaking down now.
I see why he returned from MMA, bro. He saw Poetan do his shit, and he's like, hold up, hold my beer. I got this shit. But yeah, I mean, they size up pretty well, bro. It's like I don't know what the fuck Kutsi's been up to this past 2 years, bro. Someone was telling me he's going through a divorce. He's in the US. It looks like he's bouncing around from state to state. And it's like, what is it? Where the fuck's this guy's head at, bro? Was there a chance he was possibly looking at retiring? Because it's like he's 33 years old, man. And I'm assuming he probably wasn't expecting to get a call to the UFC until recently, but I don't know. I just honestly don't see what the UFC saw in this guy to bring him to the Contender Series. We see this year in for every Dana White's Contender Series fight. They have these guys with the nice records, but it turns out they're not always the best fighter. And I don't know if you guys remember. This is giving me Markel Madero's versus Isa Isakov vibes, man. I don't know if it's because they're both from different parts of the world like that, but yeah, I just think this record's a bit fraudulent, man. And I think normally when you see these type of records going up against each other, you see like minus 400, minus 500, and it's like I think the books know this is a lot closer than the records indicate.
Yeah, I mean the Nardiev fight, like it was a terrible look, right? So that's probably not the reason they're bringing him in. They're bringing him in because of the great record and the fact he's got all these different finishes on his resume. I don't think it was like that fight tape was the selling point. Please, Gordo, go ahead.
Well, I would say it's not even the fight tape, but didn't they just sign Nardiev back to the UFC recently as well? So I think when you're looking at it, yeah, he fights on an upcoming card. So
I didn't know that. Good shout.
You look at a guy like that, they're bringing him back in. Maybe they want to be like, this guy beat Nardiev. We're bringing him back. You're doing the research on the fight tape, and it's like maybe this guy deserves a shot here. So, interesting to say the least.
One other thing, Bruno Blindado Silva, by the way, Mr. Nardiev.
Oh, goodness gracious! That should be a fun one.
The Austrian Wonder Boy is back, gentlemen.
Looking at this, I just wanted to note here, Matt Dixon, he was supposed to take on that gentleman instead, and Dixon pulled out injured. So that's why Kutsyi, it appears, got this opportunity. It doesn't look like he was initially on their radar. Looked like initially they were trying to have this fight with Daniel Frunza. And the Frunza knockout over Jalen Fuller is the fight that makes me bullish on him winning this fight because and somebody noted in the comments that bullish is becoming our favorite word on the show. So gotta consciously stop saying it. But in any case, you look at Frunza and what he did in that fight is he responded well to kicks. When you fight somebody that wants to kick you, you have to pressure them. If you don't pressure them, you're just going to find yourself getting kicked all night because they're going to have a chance to make you think about things, bait you, feint you, and then you're stuck reacting all night while they kick you at different targets. And I think that he did a really good job of no-selling the offense from Fuller. Fuller's throwing high kicks that are whizzing past his head. He's bouncing them up off the shoulder and then continuing his march forward. And for me, that's the kind of style you need to beat a kicker, to beat somebody that wants to stay on the outside. So that's why I noted the submission prop and stuff like that. That's, for me, the way to capture a lot of his win equity. He's got to come out here, press the grappling, press that advantage. He could win a fight on the feet. It's 4-ounce gloves, right? Anybody could get clipped. But I do think that Frunza is way more live to win a fight, that these two guys are standing and striking, because I think he's tough. I think he's willing to take the shots. And I actually think he reacts better to the kicks. One of the things I noted is it's the offense from this guy. He throws so much into his kicks that when they get checked, he reacts really poorly. So if I'm again in Frunza's corner, I'm like, hey, dude, we work on checking our kicks. We work on throwing some kicks, and we walk this guy down all night. Don't get taken down. Pretty simple game plan to follow, and I think he could beat him. So, yeah, for me, Frunza live underdog, and we got the whole panel talking it up. So hopefully that comes through for the people, and certainly going to wait and see what happens with these odds, because Contender Series markets are very fluid, and oftentimes they move heavily towards the favorite the day of the event. So let's see what happens when these get a little bit more liquidity on domestic markets tomorrow.
I was going to ask, you have any thoughts on Daniel Frunza round 1 plus 800?
I would want 10-1 or higher, I think, because the one thing is, I think that he becomes a bigger favorite if it's in round 2 or in round 3, based on what I saw from that Nardiev fight. And also, one thing you get from experience getting back into the octagon over and over, you just keep in good shape. He's been out of the cage for a while on the other side, so he could have an adrenaline dump coming out there, swinging big in round 1, then get finished in round 2. So that's the only thing for me, is I would almost look towards an ITD and then a round 1 or 2, because I think that it could extend a little bit, but I don't know that what's his name, Kutsyi, has the cardio to go 15 minutes at this stage, honestly. So I'm curious though. I'd love to be impressed, right? He's training at Extreme Couture. Maybe he's got the right vitamins to figure it out, but I don't think he's been a long-term guy there. I think he's a pretty recent addition.
You know, Liam, I didn't even know this was he was filling in for somebody else. And you know what we do over here, bro? We read more books. So you tell me, UFC want this guy? I'll leave it at that.
Hey, hopefully readers are leaders once again this week, and note takers are money makers, my brother. That would be a word from the wise. But we've got a heavyweight juiced up main event, and it is Bailey Schoenfelder taking on Danylo Voievodkin, and somebody's undefeated record has got to go. I have seen Danylo Voievodkin lose, but it is in full contact karate. So it doesn't count, right? It's not on his professional mixed martial arts record, but that's how you know your boy goes deep for this show and tries to bring out nuggets of truth for the people. I watched full contact karate fights for the first time in my life. I'm kidding. I've probably watched a little karate combat here or there, but certainly wouldn't seek out random Serbians fighting Ukrainians on random promotions I've never heard of, unless it was for Contender Series research. Now, on the Schoenfelder side, he fought a Contender Series alumni, right? Greg Velasco. You guys might remember I said to bet the ends by sub in Shamil Gaziev and Greg Velasco, and people were like, why would you bet the ends by sub instead of Velasco, or instead of Gaziev by sub? And I was like, Greg Velasco could pop out on his back. He's kind of opportunistic. He's a pretty good grappler. And if y'all remember, he takes his back after getting dropped brutally. Then he gets extended and then gives up his back and gets finished. So we cashed the bet. But we also had the hope spot for Greg Velasco that validated the ends by sub prop. And you look at Greg Velasco, he didn't have no moments of an ends by sub prop against this guy, Bailey Schoenfelder. Schoenfelder showed him the door in the first round, I believe. If not, it was the second. But it was just a brutal beatdown. And watching Schoenfelder work, I talked about last week, we had a really small heavyweight, and I thought that was a bad idea for him, because he was a former welterweight and he looked like you could poke him in the belly and just keep going, right? That's not the kind of guy that we're dealing with Schoenfelder. He's a smaller heavyweight, but he reminds me of McMullen from Northwestern. If y'all have been wrestling fans for a long time, that's a really deep cut as well. He took third, I think, a few years in a row in the D1 All-American tournament, NCAAs. All these guys are 265 plus pounds. And then there's Mike McMullen, and he's out there like 225, taking these guys down, winning third place in the tournament. That's kind of what Schoenfelder reminds me of, right? He's not the biggest guy. He's not a huge heavyweight, but he's functional. He's strong. He can move guys around, and he likes being faster than his opponents. And frankly, I could tell you, I have had easier times at certain points in my life taking down heavyweights than lightweights, right? Heavyweights are slow. You can move them around. You can make them make bad decisions. They're not that good, right? Their techniques aren't as good most of the time. I'm just leveling with you guys. Meanwhile, lightweight guys, just to compete, these guys are all very technically proficient, right? They're all very fast. They all know where to go. They all have good position. So you just see that some of the time, if you just take a little athleticism and a little bit of tact and a little bit of poise, you can just move around these roly-poly heavyweights, get far in your career, right? And I think that for a Danylo Voievodkin, I don't know what his ground game is like because he's fighting zeros, guys. I'm talking about people that look like they've never seen nor heard of mixed martial arts. Like they walk out there and it looks like they grabbed him from a hot dog stand. I don't mean to be rude, but it's the truth, guys. If you go watch, it looks like they pulled people from it looks like they pulled people from a hot dog stand to fight this guy. And so I understand why he's a big underdog here. I can't support minus 600s in a Contender Series heavyweight main event, but I think that this guy is way more athletic. I think he's got a way more well-rounded game. And what I will say is the reason I'm glad I watched the full contact karate is I wanted to see him fight somebody with a pulse, somebody that understood how to strike, somebody that would fight him back. And guys, he almost got knocked silly. He got dropped so bad in that full contact karate match. He's a tough guy. He's willing to get back up, but he was clapping for the other guy before the decision was read because he knew what I knew, which is that he lost that fight. So you look at this guy, and I think there is some signs of inexperience. He's still young. He's a little fraudulent, but I can't support somebody that's fighting this. And if I keep talking, Pierce is going to make me pop with laughter one more time. So I'm going to say, Pierce, why don't you take it away, my brother? What do you think of this matchup in the heavyweight main event?
Brother, there is not no hot dog stand that's feeding this guy, bro. This was something else, man. I mean, where did they find this guy? How is he 24 years old pushing fucking 35, bro? That's also a question I gotta ask myself. But when you look at Danylo Voievodkin, he's fighting killers. 1-12, Denis Tumakshayev. Dmitry Popov, 7-6, 40-year-old. Elite win. I'm very familiar with his game. Nikodem Vasilik, I believe that is this guy right here. Nikodem, as you can see, he is a prime athlete. This is a type of guy that if you're going the battle, you're going down a dark alley and you need someone to have your back, this is the guy. And, it says something that Danylo is taking these guys out in one round. Does this mean this guy could be the next heavyweight champion? Could be. This could be the Ukrainian Ngannou, bro. So it's like, who knows? Bailey Schoenfelder might be fucked. But in all reality, though, Bailey probably gets a takedown and this fight's over very quickly. I mean, Bailey's a good wrestler. He's a bit slow on the feet, which is a bit concerning. I hope he does. If this dude fucking strikes with Danylo, he's an idiot. But even then, he's probably gonna be fine here if he can survive like 2 minutes. But yeah, you can't play the guy fighting people that look like mother's milk. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much about this. I mean, if Danylo wins, man, we will eat our words just like this guy eats his meals. So we'll leave it at that. I'll go for Bailey round 2 just because we got to find an angle on this fight. And I wouldn't even play round 2. I just enjoy the fight and hope something funny happens.
Yeah, and we wish no ill will on this Danylo gentleman. I will say, I hope the Ukrainian people watching are a little kinder to us than the Bolivians that watched when we were ragging on the guy who fought Gaji Asulov. I'm telling you, we went viral in Bolivia, but they were not too kind to us in the comments. The guy lost the fight on every scorecard, and they were lighting us up like, do you regret your words? Are you eating your words now? Because we said he was not very good at MMA. And unfortunately, that was still the case, but he had heart and toughness, and he didn't get finished. So we were proven dead wrong. But in any case, the harsh language here is not to denigrate Danylo. It's just to say he hasn't really fought anybody that would give you a clear indication that he should be at this level. And there's a couple indicators that maybe he's not. So Gordo, what do you think about this one, my brother? Are we wrong about Danylo Voievodkin? Is he the hero of the story that we're underrating here, my brother?
Dude, I don't know. This one's another weird one, man. I think Pierce hit on a lot of the important parts of this one. He does have like you mentioned, a karate or other disciplined level of experience. And even at that, didn't look like he was absolutely excelling over there. But, hand-to-hand sambo, the guy has definitely that in his back pocket as well. What I found weird about Voievodkin is we talk all about this like low level of competition. And yes, it is astonishingly low level of competition. But none of these fighters he's fought have fought again. Like, he's beaten them, and he's beaten them so bad they have not fought again. Like, Dennis too much. I made his debut against, was 1-12, is now 1-13, has not fought since 2021. It's like he's retiring these guys. He's that good. But no, I think he's got these setup fights to get where he is today. And what he has in front of him is a guy who is just a lot better known, a guy who did go wrestle in South Dakota, a guy who went and played football there as well in college, a guy who does have a bigger name behind him, who has fought in better promotions, who has a larger following behind him as well. And I think he is the A side in this matchup. And prior to face-offs, I'm like, okay, maybe this Voievodkin dude is just huge. He's a tank. He's going to tower over him. He's not that bigger than Bailey here. So to me, it's a spot where, although I don't think Bailey has the expertise or experience to be this larger favorite against many people, he has a clear ground advantage, a clear level of experience advantage. He's a clear just route. Like, I think the discrepancy in the strike a lot less than the discrepancy in the grappling. I think because of that, he's deserving of a very big favorite. But I've seen Bailey be slow in the feet and hit before, and Danylo does hit hard. So I think there's definitely paths for someone like Danylo. At the end of the day, I do think Bailey takes him down, gets a dominant position, and looks to finish him here. Voievodkin, 6 wins, 5 of those coming by strikes in under 30 seconds. Like, it's just astonishing level of competition. And I do think Bailey's fought the better level of competition, gone out there, shown he can fight in multiple aspects of MMA. I think he's able to go out there and get it done. Prop-wise, it's a wide line. Bailey minus 700. The under actually got bet down to minus 150 and now to minus 250. A lot of people liking it there. I have to agree with that, but I'll have to see where they open up some lines domestically. I expected Schoenfelder by submission to be a better price tag. It's not. However, I think more times than not, Schoenfelder gets some dominant position, lands some ground and pound fights over early.
Hey Liam, can you play the video I just DM'd you for our loyal listeners out here? I want them to see how talented Danylo is. As y'all are about to see, this is top tier martial arts. This is the highest level.
Is this on Twitter here?
I sent you the DM in the Twitter group chat, and
Here.
I made my comment so it would stay in the crop. So my comment was pretty relevant to the fight that I left on the video.
Okay. Last time I shared something like this, YouTube demonetized my video for 2 weeks, but we're doing it anyway because
I don't think Kratos promotion.
Dude, the worst part is they then remonetized it 2 weeks after the show when it was clearly no longer relevant. I was like, thank you guys. I appreciate that. The next 8 views will be monetized. Thank you. All right, here we go, guys. Can you see this?
Поїхали, перший раунд. І одразу Никодим іде вперед, накидуючи удари і пропускає. Ой, яке коліно від Воєводкина. Мідл.
He was going for the heel hook. I'm with you, Pierce. I see it too.
I think I saw the same fight at the local Waffle House.
Yeah, they recreate it every weekend, every Saturday at the Waffle House, dude. My goodness. Anybody like Bailey round 2 for the culture? Anybody like Bailey round 2 for the culture?
Plus 220? I don't know, man.
That's what it is? It's plus 220? That's sickening.
That's what Danylo's opponents say when they go to the Waffle House. Can I get a round 2 for the culture?
Danylo's opponents have been to the Waffle House more than the Octagon. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
They just walk in and the chefs already know what they're making.
Are you getting the
His
same?
opponent-
Yep.
His opponent's biggest nightmare when he walks in there is the buffet. It's his biggest op.
I mean, I'll say this. Bailey Schoenfelder hasn't fought anybody either, except for Velasco. Velasco's a good fighter, and that's a good win. It's the best win that either one of them has by far in MMA. But the other thing is, Velasco, he's not a great athlete, with all due respect. Like, he's a good regional level fighter.
How bad you both got to be for Greg Velasco to be the best fighter?
The best collective win between the two of them. Hey, dude, Shamil Gaziev is clinging to like what? What's a better win that he had in the UFC? I mean, not much, right? Like Greg Velasco still a luminary in the top 3 on his all-time win list. But when you look, the thing about the Schoenfelder side is he's a pretty inexperienced guy. So you just, whenever you're talking about huge favorites, you always talk about the downside risk. The downside risk is like, this guy is a trained striker. If he goes out there, his opponent I'm talking about, if he goes out there and just tries to mix it up with him on the feet because it's a Contender series, I think that's where he could get into a little bit of trouble. But the fact that we don't know anything about Danylo's ground game makes me think it's not good. The fact that he's doing the full contact karate matches and getting put down with strikes makes me think that if you try and barrel him over with a takedown, you're going to get him to the ground. So I don't think that I'm leaning his way, right? I think Schoenfelder is going to win this one. I like to look for dogs. I like to look for dogs with a chance. It's a chance because it's a heavyweight fight, but I think Schoenfelder is just a better fighter, and I think he should be able to take this fight, whether it's on the feet or on the ground, in fairness. But I will say Greg Velasco landed 1 or 2 nice combinations with the hands. That's Danylo's upside. All right. He can go ahead and put those combinations together. Go ahead, Gordo.
I'm just going to say, man, there was a couple times that Velasco was favored in the betting market to someone like Bailey Schoenfelder. So
Thank you for that, Bet Online. Thank you for that. Hey, Greg Velasco knows a thing or two about combos, I'll tell
you. Yo, this has to be up there with the funniest episodes of our Contender Series breakdowns. Guys, I'm going to kick it over to Gordo. He's going to let you know all the great places that you could find his work, as well as what are your thoughts on all these fights, my man? If you had to give a general summary, if you had to give a quick picks for the people, for the guys like Mushroom out there who are looking to make the DGen parlay with the 3 quick clicks, what do you got, my man?
Yeah, for sure. You can find all my work on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. We'll be back there next week. We got 3 episodes left after this. The year's flying by. We love ourselves some Dana White Contender Series. Be sure to check us out there. Fight-wise, very first fight of the night, Thainara versus Rose. Not a fight I have too much interest in. I think both these fighters have their flaws. I think although Thainara has the ability to go out there and be the crisper striker and better jiu-jitsu practitioner, that Rose just has a better ability to mix it all together. I think Rose can compete in the feet. I think she can land takedowns, establish top control. I think more times than not, she's able to win a decision. I do think potentially Thainara has more finish equity, but at the end of the day, gun to my head pick, I am picking someone in Rose in this matchup. Vallejos versus Teague. I like Vallejos. I think he, out of every fighter on this card, I genuinely think he has the most upside. That those Argentina fighters are going to go forward. They're going to fight with reckless abandon. They're going to be entertaining. We just saw Rubic have success doing so, but he throws with fighting intention. He can mix it up in the ground. Very good durability, good heart, good volume, good cardio. Like Vallejos says it all. He's facing, as Pierce mentioned, Homer Simpson. Great analogy. I love that one. So thank you for that. But a guy in Teague who will just absorb a ton of damage would makes it for a pretty fun fight. 2 guys who are extremely durable, but who will throw the fighting and intention. Teague doesn't rate out as the best fighter to me. He's a guy who is slower. He's a guy who doesn't really have the most technicality, but brings a pace, brings volume, brings pressure, brings durability, and takes over as fight goes on, utilizing that cardio to his advantage. And because of that, I have a little bit of interest on the under, just because I do think Vallejos is going to have such a quick speed advantage early on, have the ability to land those finishing blows, potentially get Teague out of there. But if not, I do think Teague can take over down the stretch, potentially utilize that volume to find a finish on Vallejos. Although I'm picking Vallejos to win at a high clip, the round 3 and 2 numbers for Teague are pretty wide, so potentially playing violence there, but do think Vallejos gets it done. Christian Mazzeo, I don't got nothing nice to say, so I don't know how much I want to say on it. 2 guys who I do want to fade if they do make it to the UFC. I think Mazzeo has more early KO equity. Christian has better sub equity. I think it does end inside the distance. I would look for those 2 numbers when they come out domestic. I did pick Mazzeo, but only because I think it's a 50-50 fight, and because of that, I'm going with the underdog. Frunza versus Kutsyi, I think technicality-wise, skill-wise, Kutsy's the better fighter. I think he has a better well-rounded skill set. I think he can utilize that grappling, have some success there. But like I said, the guy who's more likely to win a street fight, the guy who's got more heart, the guy who's probably just a tougher dude is going to be guy in Frunza, who is going to have that physicality, who is going to throw the fight any attention. I think he wears damage better. Yes, there's a world where Kutsyi goes out there, utilizes that grappling, and gun to my head, I do pick Kutsyi, but this line is wide. The KO line is wide. I do think Frunza is going to have the opportunity to either chop those legs down, land those powerful shots, and look to break a guy like Kutsyi as the fight goes. Picked Kutsyi, a ton of value on Frunza, might play his KO line if it gets wide enough. Main event, Voievodkin. We've made all our jokes. The guy has not fought anybody. We haven't really seen anything from him. I think Bailey's going to have the ability to have his way on the mat, have some success there. So give me Bailey to go out there, take him down, ground and pound early on. Unders are probably a good look here, but I do think if Schoenfelder goes out there and strikes, he's an idiot. He should take him down. Should have some success.
Fair play, my man. Fair play. So there you have the breakdown from our guy, Gordo. I largely agree with his takes, but we're going to hear from our guy, Pierce, and he's going to give his summary and his wrap-up thoughts. Pierce, what do you got, my brother? I know that you've got one play, I think you said, locked in, but I know you've got some reads on the other fights as well. Let's hear it for the people, my man. Excited to hear your thoughts.
Of course. Yeah, first fight we got Alexia Thainara versus Rose Conceicao. I played Alexia Thainara this morning when she was about a slight underdog. She fights like a man, looks like a man. That's the new meta in 2024 women's MMA. Bet on the lesbians. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, next fight, Kevin Vallejos versus Cam Teague. You know, Kevin Vallejos, cool guy, good boxer. I mean, he's definitely the guy they're bringing in to win. But, you know, I think Cam Teague's going to show him a little bit of that Southern hospitality in the octagon. So it's like if this fight gets extended, man, and Teague can survive round one and look to push Vallejos on the back foot, I think Teague's the type of guy that you want money on if this is going to turn into a dogfight. It's dog or pass for me. I'm going to wait. I think if you guys are trying to play Teague, I would wait as well. I think parlay money's going to come in tomorrow, and you can probably get a better price on Teague right before the fight, or either maybe live bet. Save yourself the chance that he could get sparked in round one. So dog or pass for me. But yeah, I don't mind Cam Teague late props in his money line if it keeps blowing out. And then Mazzeo versus Christian. I played some Mazzeo round one in KO prop. No, nothing too crazy, but I just think that's the majority of his win equity in this matchup. It's going to be a KO one. And I don't know, Christian's the type of guy where it's like I don't want to lay minus money on Kevin Christian pre-fight when he's probably good chance he could get hurt in round one. And it's like you're betting on Christian because Mazzeo has bad cardio. So why not wait for that cardio to wear out before? Oh, we going full screen on this. We looking good today. But yeah, next fight we got Vadym Kutsyi versus Danylo Frunza. Yeah, never bet on a guy named Vadym Kutsyi. That's all I'm gonna say. Kutsy's a feminine name, and Danylo Frunza, you know, he's going to bring that energy. And then we got Bailey Schoenfelder versus Danylo. You know, I would never bet on Danylo just solely on the fact that he's fighting obese men. And Bailey's the type of guy where it's like if he can get a takedown here, that's probably going to be the fight. And yeah, under's probably parlay piece, but even then I'd be a little cautious with that. But yeah, overall, yeah, only thing I really like is Thainara and maybe a poke on Frunza and Teague as well.
Did Pierce's background eat the screen, or what's going on?
No, we went with the Pierce solo look for a second because I wanted to mix things up, and then I didn't know how to change it back. So that was why we were stuck there.
Nah, you're lying, bro.
To...
You wanted a closer view on these mother's milk I got behind me, bro. I understand it, bro. Let a brother,
gravitational pull
get a
on the
peek.
screen.
Pierce Picks Fights is the new name of the show, no doubt about it. At least for that segment. So we've got a lot of great thoughts and comments from you guys on these fights. Did you have any closing thoughts there, Pierce, or are you squared away with the mother's milkers?
Can we just get a quick little look at these bad boys, bro? Hey, it's bigger than some of these girls I be seeing at my school, bro. So I mean, hey, maybe they need to get on that diet that he on, bro. Get them titties up. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta learn the combos with Greg Velasquez. Brutality. All right. Now, with that in mind, I'm supposed to compose myself and tell you about these fights. Listen, the women is the one I know the least about, so I'm going to do more research here. What I will say is I wasn't impressed by the Conceicao fight. It was a title fight, so she's fighting another tough woman. You got to give her that credit, but you assume on Contender Series it's going to be another tough woman, right? They're fighting for a UFC contract, and if that's the case, then I wasn't really blown away. I didn't like the takedown game. I thought the striking looked underwater until it was rounds 4 and 5 when she just had more cardio. She was a little crisper, but it was like she was fighting a heavy bag in rounds 4 and 5. Whereas in the early rounds when she was facing resistance, it was a nip tuck round 1, could have went either way. Rounds 2 and 3, I thought were clear for her opponent. So not a great sign, I thought, for her coming into this one, but at least showed the willingness and ability to come back in a fight where she was down. On the Thainara side, Pierce pointed out to me that she was 21 in that fight. I wasn't blown away by that fight. I thought the footage wasn't great, but at 21, I could give her a pass. I could say, you know what, maybe there's room for improvement. I see her getting a lot of takedowns in her fights. So for me, I have to watch more tape and see what her striking looks like. If it can match up, then I think that she is the one I would favor here, because I thought Conceicao would have lost her last fight if it was a 15-minute fight. So that's my thoughts on the opening bout, but admittedly, the least research that I've done on any of these fights. I was not 100% sold on Vallejos coming into Contender Series prior, but I thought he had a good showing against John Silva. I thought John Silva looked to be a better product so far since he came to the UFC and on Contender Series than he looked like pre-UFC, even though he looked talented enough there. I think that when you see the Vallejos fight, it aged well for him. He showed off a great chin. He showed off a willingness to compete there. He's a tough guy. But I think you could say a lot of the same about Cam Teague. I don't think Cam Teague is as technical. I think there's a reason he's an underdog here. He should probably be a dog of some degree. But I do think the line has gotten away. When you look at Teague, he's a guy that could just stay in a fight, be tough, be durable, and take over late in fights. That is the exact path that we've seen. Vallejos has one loss on his record. It was a guy who lost round 1 and then won rounds 2 and 3 going away, and it wasn't that competitive in those rounds. He almost finished him in round 2. He had some good moments in round 3 as well. And I think the sustained offense of Teague is a problem for anybody when you get to round 2 and 3. He's a guy you're going to want to kill early, or you're going to want to control. So if you can't do either of those things, I think it's going to be a long night at the office at best. And for me, I think Teague presents a lot of interesting challenges as a massive underdog. So for me, that's a live dog to look at. I think Kevin Christian is going to defeat Mazzeo, but I'm not extremely sold on it. I do think that it's a tricky fight. I think both of them are low level. I think both of them make mistakes. But for me, I always think about two things. ABCs always bet on cardio. I think Kevin Christian has superior cardio from what I've seen. And additionally, I think of a guy who has more paths to victory. I could see Kevin Christian winning this fight by knockout. Frankly, I could see him taking Mazzeo down, Mazzeo taking him down, Mazzeo knocking him down, and then getting submitted from the full guard, or getting swept, getting his back taken, giving up a terrible position, getting tired, and then giving up a round 2 rear naked choke. I could see him giving up all those kind of spots. I didn't like his cardio. I didn't like what I saw from him. In a swinging match in the first round, I've seen Kevin Christian nearly get chin checked in his last fight. So for me, I think that this is a spot where Kevin Christian could definitely get knocked out. But if he doesn't, I favor him to win the fight in an extended fight. So that's why I like him overall to win the fight. Then Daniel Frunza, I think, is a live underdog. He's the more active party. He's the guy who's been staying in the game. Kutsy's been, in and out, and I don't like his leg durability. I think that it could come back to bite him against a high-level opponent. I think Frunza showed off a good game against Fuller in terms of what you need to do to press forward, prevent people from getting after you in the, kicking range, right? If you got a kicker, you got to crowd him. He did a great job of that. I think if he does that against Kutsyi and doesn't get submitted early, he's got a great chance to win. I think if you like the Kutsyi side, you look at the early submission props. It's been a common refrain for Frunza throughout his career, but if you know that that's a vulnerability, it's something you're going to want to exploit. Kutsyi 7 wins, no losses to the submission. For me, I feel like that's his biggest on-paper advantage. Then last but not least, guys, Schoenfelder is a huge favorite in a heavyweight main event. What could go wrong? There are some things that you have to consider in that regard, but in terms of skill, in terms of talent, trying to project out, I think Schoenfelder looks more like the real deal. I think Voievodkin needs a little bit more seasoning. I think he needs to get in a real MMA gym with some talented guys, because from what I was seeing, he's going out there not competing at a high level. When he does compete at a higher level in full contact karate, he's getting beat about the head, neck, and chest. He's getting put down. He's having to show his toughness and his heart. And it's all good when you have to show your toughness and your heart in the UFC or against a UFC level opponent. When it's against some random Serbian in full contact karate, I'm saying to myself, probably not going to be great if you translate that out to the UFC. And Bailey Schoenfelder on the other side, he goes out there against Velasco, who was 1 or 2 positions away, 1 or 2 decisions away from beating Gaziev, who headlined a UFC event. And this guy went out there and absolutely delivered him pretty easily. So for me, I think that Schoenfelder is the pick. I think he's going to get it done inside the distance. But I do think that, when I look at this fight, the one thing I will note is that Voievodkin is a very tough guy. I saw him get dropped and just get back up and keep taking an ass whooping. So if Schoenfelder doesn't have good finishing instincts here, it's going to take him a little while to get him out of there. But I like the ground and pound I saw against Velasco. He was willing to mix it up on the feet, on the ground, in the clinch. just seems like a guy who's going to be trouble anywhere you want to take the fight. So I like Schoenfelder for those reasons. And that is the wrap up, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the show. I hope that you guys will do me a couple quick favors on the way out, which is number one, make sure you show some love and support to our guests. Our guy, Gordo Gambles from the Plays and Fades YouTube channel, established the run. Make sure you go show some love and support. Our guy, Pierce, coming in between the sessions with the books. My man's out here learning and earning, trying to share a little bit of knowledge as well on these fights. Always doing a great job. We always appreciate the breakdowns and the hilarity. We should call this Contender Series Bets and Banter.
Greg Velasco, if you see this, bro, please don't eat me, bro. That's all I'm gonna say tonight.
No, he's a friend, bro. He's a friend. He's Beast Coast, East Coast. So we love Greg Velasco, CFFC in the building. Toughest regional scene to come out of. You guys know when Sean Orr ran the numbers, who was doing the best in the UFC? It was them guys from CFFC. So shout out to everybody who's rocked with us till the very end. If you guys don't mind, share the stream, drop a like on the channel, get subscribed because we're doing it all again next week. And we'll have the simulcast set up. Everything will be ready, prepared, and locked and loaded for Torres Finney's return week. So I know everybody's excited about that. If you guys are looking for timestamp UFC content, I got it on this channel. Go find that right now. If you're looking for more of it, come back later in the week. Bets and Banter. Hit that notification bell. Get subscribed. You won't want to miss it. God bless you all. Come back next week and enjoy all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody. Peace.